Hi, my name is Shiyakudu. I'd like to welcome you to my CCNA training. In this training, I'd like to demonstrate to you what port security means. Okay, so what is port security? Port security from the name just implies securing our ports in our network. So if you look at this topology here, I have my network all structured. And let's look at a simple scenario to illustrate the concept of port security. Now, this is your, like I said, this is your company, and you have three computers on the switch. Okay, and one of the things that you need to do as network engineer is that any port that is not in use should be shut down. Okay, because somebody might actually come into your organization, connect the cable to any of the vacant faceplate, and voila, they are now in your network. So one of the things you can do is to shut down your unused port on your switching device. Okay, so now let's look at these three devices. Let's assume that somebody comes into your organization and he has malicious intent, and he walks up into your organization. He realizes that okay, there are three PCs. He walks into one of the PCs, and he was one of the offices rather, and realized that one of the PCs, the person occupying that seat is off. It's not on the seat, so he want to quickly make use of that seat, that computer, that cable, to on his own laptop, so he could do a couple of malicious things like sniffing the network, trying to get packet that's moving across our network. Okay, so that's more of the reason why we need to ensure that we have port security. Port security also secure our network from malicious intruders into our network. Okay, so how do we configure port security? I'm going to dive into that now, but before I go into, I'd like to explain what we call violation modes. When we get into the configuration, we get into violation mode. There are three violation modes: there's protect, there's restrict, and there's shutdown. What that means is that if anybody violates our port security, is it one of the things that we might do is to give a protect command. Protect command means that don't allow receive frame, but don't forward frames. Okay, that port won't be shut down, but it will receive frame, but it won't forward the frame. Then for restrict, what restrict does is that it won't allow you to forward frames, but it will notify the network engineer or the administrator that somebody is trying to um, bombard this particular port with a lot of frames, and all that. So a notification is sent to the network administrator, notifying him or her that somebody is trying to take advantage of our network. Somebody is trying to flood our port with a lot of frames and all that. Therefore, shutdown means is that you want to shut down that interface completely. So when that interface is shut down, the network administrator will have to go back into the switch and ensure that the port is up again. So I just want to quickly talk about that. So let me quickly dive into the configuration so we can quickly get to understand how it works. So in my network now, I have my router. I already configured DHCP on my router, so all I just need to do is to ensure that all my PCs are assigned IP address dynamically, and this is what happens majorly in most networks. You realize that most PCs are assigned IP addresses dynamically. So most of my PCs have been assigned IP addresses, so we're good to go on that. Okay, so they all have IP addresses. So one of the things I need to first do is to ensure that to configure port security on each of the ports. But what I need to do first is to ensure that my unused ports are all shut down. So let me go into my my switch now and ensure that all my unused ports um, are all shut down. So I do my conft, I do my interface. Let me quickly look at do show IP interface base to look at all the interface that I have. Okay, so I have 2 is up, 4 is up, and 8 is up. So the rest are down except my ports interface 24. Okay, so let me just shut down starting from, let's say, from 9 to 23, just to test our shutdown. So I do interface range FA0 9 to 2023. Okay, so I do a shutdown to shut down those interfaces. Okay, so those interfaces are shut down. So so if I do my do show IP interface brief again, I realize that they're all shut down. Administratively down means they are shut down by default, they've been shut down. So what I need to do now is to ensure that my interface 2, 4, and 8 are configured with switch ports. So I do my exit from here. So I do my interface FA02. Okay, so first thing you need to do is that you need to ensure that the port is actually in an access mode. So to do that, I do switch port mode access, because you won't want that port to be negotiating for trunking. So that's more of the reason why it needs to be in access mode. So next thing is that we need to enable our port security mode. So I do a switch port security. Okay, now one of the things you need to pay in mind is that if you don't perform this command before you continue with your switch ports configuration, the switch port configuration won't take effect. So this needs to be the switch port security. Okay, the switch port for port security needs to be enabled first before we can start before the port security configuration can take place. So what we need to do now is to continue with our configuration. So I do my switch port security. First thing we need to do is to configure my MAC address. Okay, so now there's two ways I can configure my MAC address. It could be either static, or I use another one called sticky. Sticky means it's going to automatically understand the MAC address of that particular PC. So for a demo, let me just use one MAC address. Then for the two, I'll use sticky. So I go to my physical config, my interface. So this is my MAC address. So I'm going to copy it here, and I'm going to paste it in my switch. Okay, naturally you have to type it out, so it's because we are doing simulation, that's why it's easy for me to do that. Okay, so what next do I need to do? I need to configure my my violation. So switch ports. Okay, so there's another command called maximum. So what maximum means is that how many MAC address can I take? Okay, so if I do MAC address, so how many MAC address can I take? That's what this maximum talks about. Say maximum secure MAC address. So most of the time it's always good you have one. Okay, for security reasons, ensure that you have just one. So for us, we just do maximum of one. We do maximum of one MAC address. Okay, so for the violation, I'll do protect. I'll do protect switch ports security violation protect. Okay, so I'll do first. Okay, so for my second one, what I'll do is that, so I'm actually done configuring switch port for this interface. So I go to my second interface /4. Oh, sorry. /4. So I do my switch port mode first. Switch port port security. That's the first command. Okay, it's dynamic port, so I have to do switch port switch mode access. Okay, then I do my switch port security first. So I do my switch port security. Now for this, I'm going to do as a MAC address, I'm going to use sticky. MAC address sticky means that it's going to dynamically get my MAC address from the PC. It's going to automatically obtain the MAC address of that particular PC connected to that switch port. So I do sticky. So I do switch port again, ensuring that I'm using one MAC address, maximum of one. So I set my violation as restrict here. Switch port security violation restricts. Okay, so for my last interface FA0/8, I'll do shutdown. Okay, so I need to ensure that it's an access mode. Switch ports mode access. Okay, so I do my switch ports. Port security. Okay, so I do my port port security, MAC address sticky. Okay, so I do for my the maximum number of MAC address I want to have on that interface, maximum of 1. Then I do my switch port security violation as shutdown. Okay, so now that all my has been set, my port security has been set, all those interfaces. So how do I verify? So I do show port security. Okay, so if you look at this, I have these are the ports that I've configured for port security. It says maximum MAC address I'm going to have on it is 11. The current one here is 1 because I did a static MAC address. That's why I said current address 1. So violation 000 because nothing has happened on it. So what I need to do is to see the interfaces. I do show interface F. I do show port security interface FA002. Okay, so this is what I have. This is what I've been set. The violation mode is in protect. Okay, so port security is enabled and all that. So these are some of the basic informations I have. So if I want to check my run config, my running command to see what has already been set. Okay, so now if you look at it for my sticky, the reason why I don't have the MAC address is because I've not sent any frame across the network. So this was the static I sent. So because I've not sent it, so I can't find it. So you see that it's still showing sticky. So if I do a ping on my net to my pieces, it's going to capture the frames and it's going to save the MAC address. So if I do my ping my gateway 192.168.10.1, okay, so that's responding. Let me do for this other PC. Switch. Oh, sorry. Ping 192.168.10.2. Okay, so it's replying now. Okay, so I've done that. So what I need to do now is to go back to my switch and check my running configuration to see if I have my MAC address there. So I do my show run again. You see, I have my MAC address now, so it has ticked this particular MAC address of this to this interface. So no other computer can use this interface except they have this MAC address. That's what that really meant. So now that I've done that, so let's test our port security. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this interface and I'm going to see if this particular laptop can make use of this interface. Okay, so what I need to do is remove this. So it looks as if I'm trying to remove it in real life and remove it from the computer is connected to and add it to my own to the unauthorized personnel's PC. So let's see what happens to that user. Let's see if you can get IP address because we're using DHCP, so you should be able to see if you can get IP address. Okay, so you can't assign IP address because of the MAC address that it lends. Because before you can get an IP, you have to send a broadcast. So let's see what's happening. It's trying to verify if he has this MAC address of this particular laptop in its port security table. So let's check. I'm still showing a green light. So let's see. Okay, showing green light now. So let's see if we can. Let's try to see if we can get IP address again. See if we get the same IP address. If we can get an IP address from the router, because it's going to send a broadcast to the router. So let's see if we can get an IP address. Okay, so let's see what's happening. Okay, showing red now because the port is not it doesn't have the MAC address of this particular laptop in its table. So that means that it won't be able to send frames because of the port security that we configured on interface 8. So that means that we've been able to to demonstrate our port security. So if I remove this switch, this interface back now, and put it back on my PC2, let me see. So back on my PC2, interface 8, back on my PC. So my PC2 should be able to send frames. We should have the green light on both sides for my PC2. Okay, so let's wait. Let's see. Now the reason why we used one is that we only assigned when we use the maximum of one MAC address. If we had used two and we configure it as sticky to capture the MAC address of this particular laptop, so but because we used one, we only make use of this one. So most time for security reasons, it's always good you ensure that you have just one. If you're going to be using just one dedicated PC to that particular RJ45 cable, so it's still giving us that. Okay, so let me see. We should have a green light now because it's still trying to capture the particular IP address. So that's the reason. But let's see. Still showing red. Okay, so because the interface is shut down, I have to go into the interface to ensure that that interface is up again. So if I do show interface FA0/8, you should see it's going to give us this error disabled. Error disabled means that this port interface has been shut down as a result of port violation. So what I need to do is to go back into the interface. The administrator will always go back into the interface to ensure that that interface is up again. So I need to go back into the interface. I do short. Okay, so I do a no short again. So it's up again now. So that means that this interface will be up. So one of the advantages of using the shutdown is that you have to constantly go back into your routing, into your switch to enable it before you can get back, before the port can be up again. So I hope I've been able to verify how you can use your port security. I'd like to thank you for watching. I hope this video is very informative to you. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.